Okay, welcome to our angle review, level 1. Now, I want to begin by reviewing some very basic concepts. So let's look at examples 1, 2, and 3. And you'll notice on each one, I have identified where 90 degrees would be at. Now, what do we call an angle where it is less than 90 degrees? What do we call that? And notice it can literally be anything from here to here, where it's 89.999 degrees, all the way down to 0.0001 degrees. Just any number in between. What would we call that? Or we're going to call that an acute angle. Okay, well, what about here, where it's exactly 90 degrees? Well, that's easy. That's going to be called a right angle. And notice that right here, it's exactly on that 90 degrees. Okay, but what about when it's more than 90 degrees? AKA, like right here, we've gone all the way over. So like we've gone somewhere, this is like 90.0001 degrees all the way down to something like 179.9999 degrees, right before we just kind of hit like a straight angle. Well, of course, that's going to be called obtuse. So if it's less than 90, it's acute. If it's exactly 90, it's a right angle. And if it's more than 90, well, we call it obtuse. I would encourage you to pause the video and take those notes. Let's move on. Okay, in our very first example, it says this: find the missing angle and then label it acute, right, or obtuse. Well, let's take a look here and let's first notice something special about this whole angle from here to here. We're given this nice little box. Well, this box indicates that the whole thing is what we call a right angle. And of course, we know that that is 90 degrees. Now from here, it says find the missing angle. Well, let me give you a value. Let's say you know that this angle right here is 22 degrees. So we want to know that angle right there. Well, first things first, we want to ask ourselves, what kind of angles add up to be 90 degrees? So if I put our first angle right there, that question mark, something plus 22 degrees is equal to 90 degrees. Well, we're going to call this complementary. So if you see things that are complementary, you know that they add up to 90 degrees. Now from here, we also want to label them acute, right, or obtuse. Well, I just want you to check this out. Look, this angle is a part, let me even label it like that, it is a part of 90 degrees. That means it has to be less than. So of course that's going to be acute. This angle right here is 22 degrees, which is definitely less than 90 degrees. And so of course that will be acute as well. Alright, so from there, we know that both of these angles are acute. We know that one is 22 degrees. Well, the cool trick that we can do is we can simply say, okay, well 90 minus 22, and I would use your calculator for this, but 90 minus 22 will of course give us 68 degrees. And so our answer right here was 68 degrees. Okay, pause the notes, or pause the video, take the notes, and let's move on to our next example. Okay, here we have example 2, and it says find the missing angle and label it as acute, right, or obtuse. And you'll notice that right here, I'm going to use two arcs to denote that, oh yeah, this is our missing angle. Now the first thing to note that's very, very important is we have a straight line, or we could actually call this right here a straight angle. We don't typically think of straight lines as straight angles, but it is, and we know that that is going to add up to 180 degrees. Now let's also notice that this angle right here is 38 degrees. We know that that's less than 90, so that must be acute. The other thing I would say is we know that 90 degrees is always perpendicular to a straight line, and so it looks like that this angle right here is actually more than 90, and so of course we would call this obtuse. So the angle that we're looking for is going to be greater than 90 and obtuse. Now notice something else as well. This is a part, and this is a part as well. So we have two parts of the angle, and here we actually have the whole. Well, when we're talking about angles, we have a really cool thing called the angle addition postulate. And what that states is the part plus the part is equal to the whole. Okay, now let's go ahead and plug in everything we know. We know that this very first part is something that is missing, plus we know this part is 38 degrees, and that has to equal 180 degrees. So if we were just to do 180 minus 38, well, that would actually give us 142 degrees. And so our missing angle was in fact 142 degrees. So, a good note, if you see a straight line, subtract from 180. Think back to that last example, if you see the little box, you're going to subtract from 90. Let's move on to our very final example. Okay, here we are in example 3, and let's say that this right here was, it's clearly an obtuse angle. In fact, let's even label that, because we see that it's bigger than 90, so this is obtuse. And so let's give it an obtuse value. Let's say, you know what, this is going to be 110 degrees. Now from here, I want you to find me two things. I want you to find out what this angle is, and I want you to find out what this angle is going to be. And notice I am color coordinating everything. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that from this angle to this angle, they are directly opposite from each other. And so when we have two lines cross and they have opposite angles, well, these are called vertical angles. And the cool thing about vertical angles is that they are the same or congruent. So they are the same or congruent. Congruent is our geometry word for the same. So check it out. If this one angle right here is 110, well then this angle right here, just erase that question mark, is also going to have to be 110. And so I know that this angle across from it was a vertical angle. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this angle kind of over here to the left. Look, if we have a straight line right here, and this top one is obtuse, well, that means that this other angle, by definition, must be acute. It must be less than 90 degrees. And also, we know that on a straight line, it adds up to 180. So we could do 180 minus 110, which would be 70. And check it out. We just found this missing angle right here was, in fact, 70 degrees. And so we can come up with a pretty cool thing. Adjacent angles, which means beside, so it's the angle right beside it, they're going to be that word that we talked about earlier. They're going to be supplementary, which means that they add up to 180 degrees. So this word supplementary, I think I might have missed it in that previous example. I'm so sorry. But supplementary means they add up to 180 degrees, and adjacent angles will always add up to 180 degrees. Or I'm sorry, specifically, we call that a linear pair when they add up to 180. Okay, and by the way, by vertical angles, that as well would be 70 degrees. All right, I hope this video helps, and good luck on your level 1 practice.